Hello, welcome to the channel. Climate Change Explained. Something is happening to the Earth. Over the past few decades, the planet's surface has been warming more than it should, due to greenhouse gases. Some gases in the atmosphere trap heat from the sun, preventing it from escaping. They become trapped, like in a greenhouse. These gases can be water vapor, which is the most abundant and has a feedback system. As we all know, water vapor increases when the atmosphere warms, which also leads to more precipitation. Another gas, perhaps the most popular one, is carbon dioxide, which everyone talks about. Who produces carbon dioxide? We do, through respiration. Volcanic eruptions also produce it, but they are almost negligible compared to the impact of human activity. And I'm not talking about when we go for a run and breathe heavily, but rather deforestation, land changes, and the burning of fossil fuels. Since the Industrial Revolution began, humans have increased the concentration of carbon dioxide by more than a third. Another gas is methane, a hydrocarbon produced by natural sources and human activity. Where is methane produced? In landfills, in agriculture, especially in rice cultivation, and a significant amount is produced in the digestive process of ruminant animals. Is this really bad? G of fossil fuels. Well, methane is 20 times more potent in trapping heat from the sun than carbon dioxide, although it has a lower presence in the atmosphere in terms of quantity. It is the most destructive greenhouse gas. All the more reason to reduce beef consumption or eliminate it altogether. Another gas is nitrous oxide, produced by agricultural practices, particularly with the commercial use of organic fertilizers, nitric acids, and crop burning. Lastly, we have chlorofluorocarbons. Entirely synthetic compounds of industrial origin that we have all heard about. Their production has been heavily regulated in recent years, contributing to the reduction of the ozone hole, which is a good thing. However, it is just one issue. It is not the direct cause of global warming. What causes global warming are all the gases we have discussed so far, combined. Wait a moment. So far, we have been talking about global warming, but this video is about climate change. Aren't they the same? Not exactly. Global warming refers to the increase in average surface temperature on Earth due to the rise in greenhouse gas levels. Climate change is much more complex. It is a long-term change in the climate that occurs globally or in specific regions. According to evidence, such changes have occurred multiple times throughout Earth's history. In the past 650,000 years alone, there have been 7 cycles of advancing and retreating continental glaciations. The end of the last ice age was almost 7,000 years ago. Most of the changes that occurred during that time are attributed to very small variations in Earth's orbit and changes in the solar energy our planet receives. However, the change we are experiencing now is of particular importance because it is being caused by humans, at an unprecedented rate. If carbon dioxide emissions are not stopped, we wouldn't be talking about the next ice age, but perhaps something much worse. The extinction of most species on a planet that smells entirely like rotten eggs. We'll discuss the reason for the rotten eggs later. That would be the worst-case scenario, but there's no need to panic because it wouldn't happen in this century. Maybe in the next one if we do nothing about it. What we can't do is sit idly by and deny the evidence that climate change is real. But what is that evidence? One piece of evidence is that sea levels have risen 17 centimeters in the last century, and in the last decade, this amount has nearly doubled. Recent reports indicate that sea levels are rising 3 millimeters every year. Flooding is becoming more frequent around the world. And if this continues, several coastal cities will be completely submerged in a few decades. Even the population of some island countries like Indonesia and the Philippines will be left without any supply of drinking water, and their entire population will likely have to be evacuated, probably within this century. Another piece of evidence is that the world's poles and glaciers are melting. This is happening without a doubt, and you may have noticed it yourself if there has been a significant peak in your locality. There are photographs showing the drastic change that has occurred in various parts of the world in just a few decades, resulting in the migration of several animal species. Some, like polar bears, are already starting to mate with grizzly bears, giving rise to hybrids now called pizzlies. Another evidence is the extreme events resulting from high temperatures, such as storms and hurricanes, which could become much larger and more destructive. Another one is ocean acidification. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, ocean acidification has increased by about 30%. This increase is the result of our carbon dioxide emissions going into the atmosphere and being absorbed by the oceans. The amount of carbon dioxide absorbed by the upper layer of the ocean is increasing at a rate of 2 billion tons per year. This leads to a decrease in pH level, and several animals, especially those lower in the food chain, require an appropriate pH level to survive. If that is not achieved, these species are doomed to massive extinction. And now that we are talking about mass extinctions, let's also discuss the ocean conveyor belt or thermohaline circulation, which is not often mentioned. This is like a circulation system that the oceans have worldwide. It is important because it plays a significant role in the heat flow from tropical regions to polar regions and its influence on Earth's climate. As an example, that's one of the reasons why England has such a different climate compared to Canada, despite being at the same latitude. But there's something else that this conveyor belt does. It delivers oxygen from the Earth's surface to the depths of the ocean, where many animals live that we know very little about. Back in the past, when carbon dioxide levels exceeded the limits, this conveyor belt didn't function as well. If it stops functioning now, terrible things could happen. If that were to occur, scientists estimate that the entire climate of the Earth would shift towards something different. They are not entirely sure to what extent and how exactly, but they are certain that it would be catastrophic. The oceans would turn into a gigantic stagnant puddle. Except for the creatures living on the surface, most of the ocean would become an extremely cold, dark, and oxygen-depleted place. This would cause anaerobic bacteria, those that don't require oxygen to survive, to thrive down there. One peculiarity of these bacteria is that they produce hydrogen sulfide. With a massive increase in their population, hydrogen sulfide would fill the air on the surface. And if you have ever smelled rotten eggs, that's what hydrogen sulfide smells like. Yes, the entire Earth would smell like rotten eggs, but hydrogen sulfide not only stinks, it is also quite toxic and would undoubtedly exterminate the species of animals living along the coasts. Talking about all this can be quite depressing, but it wouldn't be necessary if there weren't so much skepticism and misinformation surrounding the topic. The Earth is warming up incredibly, that's a fact. Yes, there were some research papers published a few decades ago that claimed the Earth was cooling, but they were few in number. Since then, many more publications have been made regarding the warming of the Earth. Nowadays, the vast majority of scientists agree that the planet is warming more than it should. Those who deny it flood the media with false information to incite controversy, and they are usually representatives of companies that would be wiped out by a drastic change in their carbon dioxide emissions policy. Well, not them personally, but their companies. Companies that also contribute substantial amounts of money to governments and election campaigns. There are plenty of interests at stake to prevent the necessary changes from taking place. Furthermore, consumerism has created needs that don't exist and keeps these corporations afloat. Because alternative sources of energy are there. They have been there for decades, and some countries already use them regularly. But the countries that should be using them the most, China and the United States, as they emit the largest amount of gases, are still not doing enough. The evidence tells us that our planet is changing. Yes, it has always been changing, but this time, everything seems to indicate that we are causing it. For millions of years, the Earth has witnessed the extinction of a great number of species. How long has humanity been here? Almost nothing. How much longer do we want to be here? It's literally in our hands. That's it for today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.